Hey guys, Seán here for the very first ever international Any Given Runday, because we are live stateside with my guest and my co-host, Mr. Eric Lawless in the Sun. Eric, how are you getting on?
My God, your intros are getting better by the week. Yeah, good. I think a bit of distance is doing us good. Yeah, good. Got here on.
I had a lot of material to work with there.
Yeah, got here on. When did I get here? When did I leave? It's all blur. I left on Friday morning at like 6 o'clock, and I got here. I was like 20 odd hours traveling. Like, had to go through France, then through France onto Atlanta, and then Atlanta down here to Alabama. Yeah, so it's I was very tired now for the last 2 days. It was so bizarre as well being on a plane. So obviously everyone's scared of COVID-19, but we were on a big Airbus A330, big one, and there was only 80 people on the flight on an aircraft that holds about 250 people. So everyone had like their own 4 rows. There was people just asleep. All the blinds in the plane just got closed straight away, and everyone just honked straight away. They were all lying out on the 4 rows. I think it was the biggest, sleepiest plane I've ever been on in my life. But of course, me and the other fella were on it, and they moved us up to the front, like, and they were like, "Oh, these guys can sit here," and I gave them a little box of Lily O'Brien chocolates. I brought a load of little mini ones, like, and they were feeding us full of beer for the flight down. It was great. Everyone else was asleep, and me and him were having the big DMC at the front of the plane. But yeah, like, not exactly a great way to lead into a sporting well-being podcast. But yeah, anyway, look, I really enjoyed the flight, and then got to the States, and yeah, actually just trying to settle in. So we're in quarantine at the minute. So we're only allowed, we're not allowed near people as such. So, but we can go to the shop obviously for essentials because we have to live, and then we can go for a run, but obviously stay away from people. So I'm ran on this road. So yeah, we'll get into that now in a few minutes, but yeah, they're just not used to seeing people running on the roads like you would at home, or cyclists and stuff. But yeah, especially when it's 28 degrees. It was 31 degrees today, so in the mornings it's brilliant because you get the sunshine. It's not too hot. It's kind of reaching its peak, but the sun is glaring in the morning. But as the afternoon comes around, all that heat builds up, and thunderstorms then all afternoon. So it's great. So you get the sunshine in the morning, which is tolerable, and then thunder and lightning to watch all day for the afternoon, so it's not too bad.
Jeez, man, my mind is blown. There's so many different questions there. What you say, it's not really sports related, but I do the exact same as you. If I was in a plane or start feeding me all this food and beer, and you're about to do this 7-month trip for a lifetime, it's like, load me up.
We definitely lived up to the stereotype of being Irish, though. And you're like, would you like a beer? And they offered us cocktails as well. I was like, yeah, okay, I'll have some of them, yeah. What else you got? But no, it was enjoyable. It was they were kind of the staff flew with Delta. They're absolutely amazing. But the staff kind of, once they copped, we were kind of up for a bit of a chat anyway, because we were right beside the galley. So once they get bored, because they haven't got 270 people or whatever to look after, they've only got 80, and it's the full crew. So every so often, 1 or 2 of them just come out and kind of sit in the row opposite us and just like, should I talk away to us to kill a half hour of their day as well? Like, so it was like hosting a little talk show every few minutes, and it was very good. No, it was, but yeah, big shock to the system getting here now. It's I don't know. Well, me and Seán is here with me. We started watching Ozark. Ozark is I'd say about 100 miles north of us. Thereabouts, a massive lake and stuff. We flew over it into where we were landing, and we started watching. So anyone watching Ozark, pretty much the scene there of trees and roads and little houses and random places, that's pretty much where we're living here now. Very much the country of southern USA, southern Alabama, yeah. So it's interesting. It is. It's a big change to home. But yeah, so far so good. Absolutely loving it.
You sent me the video and stuff from where you lived, and the car and everything else, and just on the road, and the Instagram post for both weekend. But I just want to kick into nutrition a little bit here, because the few things you sent me a picture of a cake, and I've never seen a cake that was 4 different flavors. Like, it was a chocolate fudge cake, something random. I only saw a chocolate one. There was 3 different parts to that cake, and then just the size of the portions. And you said something very interesting to me, because I was like, oh, Eric's gonna be in trouble here, because I seen you in M&M World, and you've got a real sweet tooth, and I'm like, with all this food over there, what's the temptation like?
I have to say, right, and I don't mean this is bad, I do have a terrible sweet tooth, and I was a bigger guy, and that sweet tooth never gone away, and that's why I run, and so I can eat all this bad food. It's great. I'm a nutritional expert. But the food here, I walked into Walmart, and there's this cake, and it's not like, you know, when we think of like a cake you'll see in a Tesco's or something, it's a little kind of 6 to 9 inch, 7 inch maybe cake, Black Forest Gallo, you know, a little treat after dinner, we'll share it all. This thing was about 12 inches big. It was huge, and like a quarter of it was like they made this big chocolate fudge cake, and like it's about 6 inches deep as well. Like this thing is like it's like a curb on the side of the road. Like it's absolutely massive. But they'd 4 different cakes all shoved into this one container. It was just called a variety cake. And I have, for the first time in my life, there was so much of it. You could smell all the sugar when you walk into this. For the first time, I was actually like, I don't want any cake. I was like, what's wrong with me? So I think we're safe enough on the old temptation for me, but it was just, oh man, the quantity. Like, do you know what people have? I've never understood this, because whenever I get a Chinese takeaway, everything, I just put everything onto the plate, and then the challenge begins. No one can leave until all the food is gone. Whereas there was this cake, I swear to God, it was like a cinder block. Like, it was huge. I just couldn't get it. I was like, I don't think I can do this. And the donuts, they sell donuts by the 24. It's not just a 6-pack of donuts, your little pack of 4 little jam donuts, Cuisine de France. No, these were like your Krispy Kreme 24-pack. No, I did think about them for a minute, and then I thought about the consequences. But vegetables quite expensive here, and chicken and fresh meats, like a bag of spinach, I think is about $4, depending on where you buy it. So, yeah, it is. And I think 2 chicken breasts in one of the shops was like $8 and stuff. So, yeah. But then like a kilo of macaroni and cheese is about $2.50. So, like it is tough. It's going to be tough to kind of eat healthy, but we have everything bought now. Because we don't want to go back to the shops too often with the virus and stuff. So we went big on the first one, and we'll figure the rest out of it. We only discovered actually when we get there they do like a click and collect kind of service, so we'll probably do that the next day. But yeah, it's like everything is huge. The trucks are huge. They're all like monster trucks driving beside us in their little car and stuff, and just getting used to it. But yeah, the food element is crazy, absolutely bananas. But definitely not suited to our lifestyle. You know, like a bag of M&Ms was bigger than my head. Now I haven't got a big head, but it's just like, and I'm a sucker for, like, I'll get the share bag of minstrels and I won't share them. But now that I've seen the share bag over here, I actually feel quite good about what I do at home. Like, it's actually not bad, like, because it's quite a dangerous size, especially for someone like me with a sweet tooth. I definitely wouldn't be able to stop. But but even the heat as well makes a big difference. Like 30 degrees kind of outside. Now the house is air conditioned, so it's fine, and we're quarantining now, so like we can't really go anywhere. But bar our run and from the car to shop and then back car inside. And sitting in the back garden today when the sun came out, like, it was like sitting in a sauna. It's not really humid. It is just a warm heat. It's like you're sitting underneath a heater. It's not a sticky kind of heat. You're just like, oh my God, I'm really warm. But the minute the clouds come, it's actually quite manageable. It's actually, once the sun is out, like, you're feeling all the heat. But when you're under kind of cloud cover, it's actually kind of nice. But yeah, all morning really nice, and then the afternoon we're watching fork lightning out the window here. So it's pretty cool. Won't be going for a run in the afternoons anyway, that's for sure.
So you went for your first I'm assuming it was a morning run you went to when you passed the El Garage Station, St. Martin and all the rest.
Yeah.
The heat was okay? Was it manageable when you're actually out in it, or what went on? So
I fell asleep we'd been awake for a day really, because neither of us, because we were having such a good time on the flight, neither of us really slept on the 10-hour flight from Paris. But so when we got here, and we didn't sleep much the night before. We'd be up at 3 o'clock to go to the airport now, so we were wrecked. So I stayed awake till 9:30, and then I was awake at 4:30 in the morning here, and I was debating it, because the sun was starting to come up, and I was like, might go for a run now. And then I was like, oh, like, you're wrecked and conscious of burning the candle about then, jet lag. I was like, no, force myself back asleep. So about 9, maybe 10 o'clock when we got going, and the minute we got outside, it was like, it's warm, but it doesn't feel too bad. And then we are like, obviously the excitement, we're going running somewhere else. we'd kind of planned the route, and like I'm looking at Google Maps at home. So when I look at the street view, I'm like, that's about 2 kilometers, 3 kilometers. But we started out, and so I was like, oh, if we do this little lap, that'll be about 5K. So we started out in this trek, and I was taking the pictures and videos and through the first K, the second K, and then we came to this big ass hill. Now this hill was, it was like, if anyone's ever ran in Phoenix Park, there's a couple of hills there around the fort, but it was like that, but a lot longer. Like it went on for about the guts of a kilometer. So that's when I felt the heat. And we'd no shade from the trees anymore for this hill, so really felt the heat of that. So that was like 2.5K in. I looked down at my watch, up the hill in the heat. My heart was doing 199. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to die. So I was thinking this road was only like 1.5 K. And now we're 2.5K in and we're still climbing up this hill on the same road. And I was like, we cannot judge distance in the US anymore. Like it's so hard to tell because it's so vast. So we got to the end of this road. I didn't even know this garage was there. Because we were just said, look, we'll go to the end of the road. I opened up maps, so I was like, oh, I'd like to say it's 1K away, but I can't tell. So we got to the end of the road, and it finished at like 3.2K, and we only went out to do 4 or 5. We were going to do a nice, easy one, and we got there, and I mean, like, 2 of us were like bent over, like doubled over, sweat pouring off us, couldn't catch our breath, and like you could feel your heart like pumping. And like, do you know when you can feel a dehydration headache come on, you kind of get a little bit of a headache, and like there was so much sweat on us, it was ridiculous. And then I looked up and I was like, I don't believe it. The garage was called Marathon. I was like, we've only ran 3.2 kilometers, and the 2 of us we were nearly going to get a taxi back. Like we were in a jogger. So we left it. I waited like, so using Garmin, when you pause a workout, it'll show you where your heart is in the recovery zone. But my heart rate was still in the 160. And I was like, recovery heart rate 160, which means my body was not recovering at all, especially with the heat and stuff. Mm-hmm. So that, like, 160 is probably above where I try and run a marathon at. Like I try running a 150, less than 160 at a marathon. And now my body's trying to recover at that rate. So it was, a big shock. But then, like, we don't know anyone, and no, with COVID and stuff, we're not supposed to be near anyone. So it's like, right, we've no choice but to run back. So off we went. It was grand for the first little bit. We got down the hill, and obviously it's getting warmer and warmer as the morning's going as well. So down the hill, and then there was a few hills we ran down on the way out that we didn't even notice. So then we were running back up these on the other side, and we had to stop about 4 times in the remaining 3K, just under a tree, let the heart rate recover, try and stop the stars from coming into the eyes. And then we eventually got to 6K, and I think we were about 500 meters from home, but we couldn't actually run anymore. It actually just would have, because we couldn't gauge how far the house was either. So it was like, nah, we just stopped to watch a 6K pretty much bang on. We walked the rest of the way, tried to let the heart rate come down before we came into the house. But we had the air conditioning on here, and we kind of noticed it being a bit cold, but then I was never happier. Like, it's like a freezer, so I was never happier just to walk indoors. Like, I was like, oh my God. So, but as well, like our legs, because we were on airplanes for, I don't know, guts of 18 hours yesterday, but our legs were so swollen, and this run was not helping. So the 2 of us, I have a photograph, but you can only see my legs, and I hadn't got the t-shirt on. But because you can only see my head and the legs, it looks like I'm naked lying on the ground. So I couldn't post it up, but I'm just panned out lying on the ground. And I couldn't move. I had to have the feet elevated and try to get the blood out of the feet because my legs were so swollen from the heat and the run and all the flying. So, but yeah, the body definitely got a shock to the system. 100% got a shock to the system. So hopefully it'll recover. We'll get used to the because we're going to have to be working in it as well. So, and in uniforms and all that. So like it's kind of good to get out and be running in it and pushing yourself just so we can kind of acclimatize to it. But yeah, for the next 2 weeks, we're going to let the thunderstorms pass. We didn't go for it this morning because we're kind of gauging how the days are working. So we just kind of had our breakfast in the sun, and then we wait for the thunderstorms to pass, and then we'll go for a run this evening. A lot of people seem to be out walking their dogs and stuff around 7 and 8. So they would tend to be a bit more clued in than we are at the minute.
Time.
So, yeah, so about 7 or 8 o'clock now, I'll go and do another 5K or so, and just try and run 5K every day, because I'm only back from the injury, but as well, just trying to get used to the heat. I don't want to burn the candle at both ends, like so. But yeah, so far so good. It's going to be interesting. We're in the peak of it now. August, end of July, August is kind of the peak temperature. So we couldn't have come at a better or worse time, depending on what way you look at it. But it's it's going to be good. And then into the winter, then it maintains around 17 degrees. So fitness wise should improve once we can acclimatise to it. And hopefully where we're going next has running tracks and all that kind of stuff. So interval training will be back, and especially in the heat, it's going to be interesting to see how the fitness improves here. Especially, I'm going to go back doing the heart rate training. Not yet. I'm going to give it about 4 weeks and let the body stop being in such shock, because there's 0 point. I want to make sure it's normalized a little bit before we crack into it.
Yeah, I mean, you can't do the heart rate training right now when your recovery rate is a 160. I mean, that makes no sense at all to me.
I'd say even going for a walk, my heart rate would be in the 150s, 160s, just because the temperature alone. Is there much point in running? Probably not.
Out of all the times to pick going out there to get customized to something, and look, I preface this by saying you've done triathlons and stuff last year, and so you did 4 triathlons in 4 weeks, and you've done marathons. You've done a 3:35 marathon. If you were ever going to, obviously with the heat, regress so much to do a 6 kilometer run and having to stop 4, 5, 6 times, go through it, at least you have the excuse that the Garmin app is now down at the moment, the ransomware thing, but you don't have to put it up as Strava and all the rest.
Oh, if you were to look at it on Strava, my elapsed time was about 40-45 minutes, or maybe 50. We were out there for ages. We had to keep hiding under trees just to cover ourselves. It was unbelievable.
And to put that in context, you've done a 5K in under 20 minutes, and now you're doing an extra kilometer in an extra half hour to get there.
Yeah. And when we started this podcast, we were training in winter Ireland, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 degrees, as it progressed into spring. And we were going to Madrid to run in 20, 24 degrees, thereabouts. And we all had these ambitions of running. I was going to go for the 3.5 hours. One thing I've learned in one run here is that none of us were going to achieve any of that. The heat is definitely a game changer. We had a couple of good days in April there, and I did notice myself when I got into the heat, I was not performing the same, and it's all to do with heart rate. My heart rate was going so high so quickly, and that's kind of reaffirmed. I know in some of our earlier episodes I talked about the heart rate training and how important it is in developing the heart, but I think you kind of have to, especially here in the heat, it's a massive game changer. When you're running at 196, you're not going to run for long at a heart rate of 196. You're going to get about a half hour, and then you're just going to drop, no matter how good you are. So yeah, the heat is a big thing. So once we acclimatise, about a week or two, and we'll be able to quarantine them, which is great. So I'll be able to kind of see where the local running tracks are and stuff, and kind of work on the interval trainings and progress itself with the heat. So it's it'd be interesting. It's an experiment in itself. I've never had to train in heat like it. So yeah, it's gonna be very interesting. I know Austin, who was on a couple of episodes ago, when we did the marathon, when we ran the 3:30, Austin had trained, and he was in Africa for 6 months, and he was training in that heat at 5 o'clock in the morning, 21, 22 degrees. And he came home to Ireland. He was like, "Oh, come on, we were doing these things where my heart rate was in the 180s and his was only in the 150s. The difference in the two of us was absolutely massive because of where he had done his training and where I had done mine. So he was working harder and I was working twice as hard just to keep up with him. It was because he had that fitness. And it's amazing. It is amazing. It'll be interesting to see when I'm back next year, the difference when I get into the cold, how much I can do. I might try set a few records for myself when I'm back in the early spring next year.
Unbelievable. I was actually going to talk to you a little bit more about because last week because I've still this nagging injury, so I took the bike out last week. I was going to talk to you a little bit more about that because you are getting the bike out, but I'm going to save that for next week's podcast because hopefully, when is that bike coming out to you?
Yeah, the bike has been shipped out, so it depends on if I'm able to build it back together again or not. I really should have taken a few photographs. I thought to be this part is an all-in-one part. It just comes apart. Then you pull it, and then there's 3 little rings that just popped out of somewhere, and I'm like, oh no. So I just put them all into a Ziploc bag and threw it into the bike box. And yeah, so I don't know. I'm hoping the bike will arrive in the next week. It's due to be shipped very soon anyway. So hopefully the bike will be here before we're out of quarantine anyway. So at least we can build it up. But again, like everyone drives cars over here. Like it's very rare to see someone walk into the shop. We live about 5k from the local town. I would say it's like Naas. It has a main street which is relatively busy, but a lot of population living around. You can't see it though because there's so many trees, but there is like little mini communities and churches and gun shops everywhere. There's a church every 100 meters, and there's there was one we passed today, like, and no, I'm all for church and religion and stuff, and we don't get into politics, but just like when you put it all into context, one of them was like, if you feared COVID as much as you feared hell, you'd come to church more often or something like that. I was like, oh my God. It just kind of...
They're great marketers.
Like, I was like, my God. But it kind of sets the community that we've become a part of here and stuff. Yeah, you have to respect where you are as well. Whenever you go anywhere in the world, you have to respect that's what people are at there. But it's just the culture shock, I suppose. But like, whereas we would have a footpath all the way into the town centre, like we're only 3 kilometers away from the town, but there's not a footpath to be seen anywhere. Like everyone drives everywhere. So it is kind of dangerous in terms of going for a cycle or a run. They're not used to seeing bikes on the road. They're not used to seeing people running on the roads. Whereas we would at home, like, you know, most people's big complaints after the coronavirus was, oh, the amount of cyclists on the road. I have to overtake them and slow down. Like, whereas here, like their Jeeps or pickup trucks are like monster trucks. They're about 12 feet high. They're raised up. Like they're like when a truck passes you out at home, like a 40-foot truck, that's scary enough. These things are going by you every second, and they're like, it's a different world. It's an absolutely different world. So we'll see where the bike leads. We'll try and find some quieter areas where I can go for cycle. Like even when I looked on Strava and I looked on Garmin for, like, do you know the way people kind of post routes and they recommend routes? There is very, very little recommended routes around me. Like, so I think I'm going to be a trailblazer here for people who want to start up running. Might start up a running club over here, actually. But it's
go for it, yeah. But you're not really selling it too well. All these trucks going around. But you probably have to drive.
It is
to find a running track to run on.
Yeah, it is different. It's the only way to describe it. It's very different. It's not like we would have it at home or on the continent in Europe where, you know, cycling and outdoor, you know, like it's quite different, and everyone is busy. Like we're in a small town, but everyone is busy and in a hurry to go everywhere, you know, and there's a lot of traffic on the roads. So yeah, it's just kind of seeing where I can fit it all in, or maybe I just need to be brave and just chance it. But you know yourself, when you're not used to the local kind of run of the mill, I suppose it's kind of difficult to see how to go about your training. So because even when we were on that run, like we were on, like, I would say not a major road. Like, no, it's not like a little farmer road at home with a grass strip down the middle. It's a 2-car road, like a normal road. But like people would pass us out and then would be beeping and flashing at the cars who were coming our direction to like warn them that there's someone running on the road. Like, we weren't even running on the road, we're running on the grass verge. So like they're just like totally not used to this, people going for a 10k around their local area. And so it's we're gonna look in.
Unbelievable. I remember I was on Florida. It's the same thing. It's mad, but we must check in with you as I see how you acclimatise over the next couple of weeks and how the routine kind of forms itself. Would be very interesting. And you mentioned a couple of minutes ago, Ozzy put up on the Instagram talking about Lug Aquila. He was up there.
Yeah.
He was up there hiking. So I think in the next couple of weeks, it'll be interesting to see the contrast between what you're doing over the heat over there and what Ozzy's doing, because every week he's doing different hikes and different runs and different things like that.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting now. He is a different kind of man as well. Like, he is the pinnacle of getting out there and getting after it. Like, he's very good. And if people are following him, like, take note of some of the routes he takes, because the photos he gets, the scene. And it is true, like when you're running in places like that, you know, it seems daunting going for a run on the mountain, but when you've got the spectacle of the view, it kind of takes away from what it is you're doing. Like, obviously, if you're only getting off the couch and going running, you don't want to be going running around Lug Aquila, but as you're getting more comfortable with your runs, like even a walk run type exercise up there, it's brilliant. And I'm loving the photographs he's getting at the minute. It's absolutely amazing. And hopefully I can get some similar views down here and see what I can do. But even we're doing our just to add to the difficulties, we're doing our kind of home workouts. We're doing it in the back garden because it's nice to be outdoors and it's warmer, so we're getting more. You're getting more for your buck in terms of sweating and the heart rate is up and stuff. But I was doing my push-ups in the back garden, and there was ants crawling all over my hands. Like, so there's ants everywhere. So they're like, you just see these. They look like little mini volcanoes in your back garden, and there's like about 20 or 30 of these mini volcanoes, and all the ants are just coming and going out of them. Like, they're absolutely everywhere. And there's like, it's not muck over here. It's like red dirt. It looks like rust. And you just see these little rusty volcanoes just all over your back garden. We didn't know what they were at the start, but then when I was doing push-ups and they were crawling all over me, I was like, right, the home workouts in the garden just got a little bit tougher. All right, so we're gonna have to readjust. We do have a little garage here, so we're gonna readjust indoors just for the ants. But there's all sorts of challenges to come. It's definitely different to home. It's the routine is definitely scuppered anyways, but we'll see how it goes over it. I'll definitely check in with you next week and let you know how it goes, and hopefully I'll have a few more runs during the week under the belt.
On that note, I really don't want to hear any more about Alabama if we're going down the route of all these ants and little things up and down right now.
And just as we're speaking,
that's going to make me sleep better.
Lightning is just after hitting a tree just across the road here as I'm looking out the window. Is massive lightning strikes happening. Yeah, it's cool. Yeah. Listen, it's just everything's extreme. So I'm just gonna go get myself a big old cake and sit here and watch the lightning for the next hour.
And on that note, with the lightning being extreme, with Aussie's hiking's being extreme, with you running the heat extreme, I feel like I'm living the comfy life now, just trying to get back into training. I think that's a perfect time to wrap up this week's episode of the Any Given Runday Extreme podcast. We're after giving people a couple of hints on the big plans we've got coming up in the next couple of weeks and months. I really like that, and what we're going to do and build up this podcast and a couple of other things as well. Anything else you want to add before we wrap up this episode of the podcast?
I can imagine people listening back now to try and pick up on the hints, and it's absolutely wrecking their head 2 weeks in a row. They won't have a clue. But it's good. Look, it's good to be in touch. It's good to see familiar face. It's only been a day, but I'm not homesick anyway. But just yet. But we'll catch up next week, and hopefully we'll have more information and a few more clues maybe of what's to come in. Are you sure you're able for this outro now? You sure?
No, I think you handed it out there.
I'll let you. You've done so well with the intro. You've done so well with the intro. Go on.
That's all we got time for this week on Any Given Runday Extreme International. From myself and from Eric all the way over there in the good US of A. Take care.